Welcome to the Clinical Cookout.
Hey now, it's your Auntie Ashley.
What's up? It's your girl, Auntie Shug.
Hey, it's your girl, Auntie Quiche.
Hey y'all, it's Auntie Amber.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Clinical Cookout. As you know, the Aunties are allies of the LGBTQ plus community, and we are here to celebrate Pride Month. So with that said, we have two guests. We have Brittany and we have Sam Priest. So with that said, let's bring Brittany on. Hey Brittany.
Hey Brittany,
Hello.
welcome to the Clinical Cookout.
Hey y'all, thank you for having me on. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Brittany. I'm from Baltimore, and I'll start with, my two baby mamas are Beyonce and Serena Williams.
Okay.
All right. Second guest, we have Sam Priest, and let's go.
Hi. You are on mute.
Hello. Yes, I was. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you guys for allowing me to join your platform. My name is Sam Priest, and I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. And my baby daddies are, I love me some Usher.
Okay.
And who is my other baby daddy? I got two. I probably got a few, but we'll stick with Usher right now.
Okay.
And I like the uncle.
I am Uncle Sam Priest at the Aunties Cookout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usher is time enough for two baby daddies, so that's
Ooh, baby, because I just got hot.
I do love me some Usher. That's my go-to. When I've been drinking a little bit, I need to hear something. It's Usher.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So this episode is a very special one. It's very near and dear to our hearts. We are super amped to talk about Pride and the things that you guys have been through, and just being able to push this mental health envelope a lot further. And hearing from some people from the actual community is like that's gold right now, because we want everybody to understand what people in the LGBTQ community go through. So let's get into it.
Let's go.
So I did complete an entire dissertation in support of the LGBTQ plus community. And I think I'm going to probably say the community so that I don't have to say the whole thing every single time. But one of my biggest things of research, I guess I could say, is that I found out that the Black community is not as supportive for their LGBTQ plus youth. And it's disheartening. I know that there are higher suicide rates, that there are a lot of homeless youth. There's just a lot of problems within us, some of it stemming from the church, some of it just stemming from patriarchy, some of it just being old-fashioned. I don't believe in the LGBTQ plus community, and I know it does hurt our youth. So my program that I developed was so that I can get youth and their parents who do not accept them to be securely attached again, if they are not attached just because of who they are. And so in the program, we took some measures to show, how the level of suicide they were at, depression, anxiety, just the mental health symptoms that people were experiencing from not being accepted. And then I plan to take measures with the parents and see where the parents are in their level of acceptance and how it's affecting the youth. So after that, I plan to do some cognitive behavioral therapy. Sorry about that. And with the parents and with the youth, and family systems therapy to kind of get the family working as an entire system again and accepting the youth, so that the youth can not have so many negative mental health symptoms. Depression, anxiety, just anything that might come with that. And it doesn't always have to be depression or anxiety, but I just want people to be securely attached to their family members so that they can get on in life. So that's what I did for my dissertation. It was a program development. So that's the program that I developed in the dissertation. That's the program that I plan on actually implementing in the future.
I love that because one, you're tackling a problem that a lot of people face and they overlook, especially in the Black community. I say it all the time. It's hard to be Black in general because we're already being judged. There's no safe place for us. There's not many safe spaces for just being Black. So imagine being Black and gay. That is an extra layer, extra burden that we have to carry because we're not only judged here, we're also judged in our own community, and we don't. It's hard to find where we fit. A lot of people would rather see us die versus just taking time to just love us and treat us like we're human because we're not different than anyone else. I I got blessed because my parents were pastors, but they were a different breed of people. They took time to just push out love. That's what I tell people all the time. I was made in love. I was raised in love, and that's all I know. And I watched my parents take in kids who would get kicked out of their home for being gay, and they will offer a spot for them to stay until they got back on their feet. But the thing that hurts the most is that these are parents who would just kick their children out just because of something they don't agree with, or they have been trained through the church or the system that this is not okay, but everything else is okay. You can have as many kids as you want. You can do all of these other things, but if you're gay, you're just ruining our whole lineage, and I don't want any attachment to that. Which is crazy because here I am, Black, gay, and I've done a lot of great things, and I don't have kids. I don't have all of these other things that other people deal with, but yet I'm still looked at as a person who just should not be because of my sexuality.
So I wanted to say, I mean, I know that your attachment with your primary caregivers is what kids tend to care about the most. But I just can't, like, what if it gets to the point where it's too toxic to where like your parents are absolutely refusing to accept you, and you do get placed or go into another home with people that do accept you? Do they not then become your caregivers and your parents and your family?
Mhm.
And you start to kind of, yeah, go ahead, Shiv. What you got up for that?
Okay, no. Okay, so this question is gonna go with Amber's question directly. So she's saying like, what if you do attach to somebody else that becomes your caregivers and your families? Have you guys heard of house families? Brittany, especially, I want to ask because I mean I know Baltimore has a big community too. Um, have you both heard of house families?
Talking about the ball?
Yes.
The ball? Yeah.
Sometimes house families go a little bit further than the ballroom scene. Sometimes
True. Right. Yeah, true.
just people with big hearts that adopt people and bring them in. And going back to Amber's question, I've had a lot of friends who parents just would not budge. And I tell them, I'm like, you cannot continue to carry that burden because they had a choice. They raised you, they did what they were supposed to do. And if they don't want to be in your life, I know it hurts, but you can't stop or limit yourself from growing because of the choices of others. So create your own family. I had to do that. I've had to create my own family and my own little bubble of people who I know genuinely love me. So my advice to anyone who is dealing with that, sometimes you do have to let go in order to grow.
What about you, Brittany?
As far as what? Having chosen families?
Mhm.
Or
Or do
that's
you?
what
I mean, not even only you, but do you know anybody else like that?
um not in my very close community, but I know I have acquaintances and things who experience that. I mean, that's why you hear a lot of queer folks nowadays use the term chosen family because it's the experience that we have, a lot of us have in the queer journey is that like even the people that we grew up with, who a lot of them around us may not be queer, they may be heterosexual, don't really understand that journey. So you have to find folks who are understanding what you're going through, especially in the beginning of that journey. So you call that chosen family. I think all of us experience that, but there are some of us who experience to the degree of, yes, our primary caregivers are toxic and we have to leave physically from their space. I have the privilege of never having to experience that. My family, I wasn't, I grew up in a church family. And when I say that, I mean my family was the church. My grandfather was a pastor. He eventually became a bishop when he grazed up churches. And all of my aunts and uncles, my mom and stuff were deacons, elders, all of that. So I grew up in the church. Me and my cousins, we were steeped in the church. So everything I understood about right and wrong was based on sin. So being gay was a sin. So I never identified as queer growing up with my family. I didn't even identify as queer when I left my family and went all the way to New Orleans to go to school. That didn't happen until after college for me, until another event. And what happened with me was I came out to two people, and then when I did that, I decided I wasn't going to do it again. And those two people, one was with my cousin, the other one was a friend. It was not another family member. It wasn't even my mother. And I decided I'm not doing that again because I decided I didn't want to tell people about who I was. I just wanted to be who I was. And really what I decided was the way I was going to have that conversation with my family about my identity was through relationships. So when an important relationship came along for me that was important and it was a woman and I was ready to share that, then I would share it. But also, I had the privilege of my mom not being an ignorant type of parent. And even though she also grew up in the church, she was very open-minded. And I think I think since I was younger, I'm not sure she can say she thought I was queer, but she knew I wasn't going to fit into the mold of marriage that she was raised in and that I was raised in.
Mhm.
And by the time I did have a meaningful relationship to introduce to her, and I was like, Mom, she's my girlfriend. And she was like, yeah, Brittany, I know. In that moment, like I already knew she loved me, but it was a relief to like, we never were explicit about my identity, but it was a relief to be explicit in that moment. And since then, she's the way that my mom shows me that she loves me with regard to my queer identity is she goes to learn on her own. I think I've had the privilege of having that in my life through my mom, and then I've also had the privilege of having a family, even though they grew up in church and had all of these kind of fucked up ideals when it comes to queerness. Um, they also were very hypocritical in their actions, in that they really did love everybody. They just had to hide behind the cross sometimes. Um, and then I'm now in a place where, all of my family knows I'm queer and it's no problem with them. And, and I recognize that as a blessing because not everybody who is queer has that.
Well, at least you got the opportunity to, come to your mom. Imagine coming home from school, 11th grade, and you're sitting there watching Scooby Doo. Your mom and dad is there behind you, and all you hear is, "Hey, son, we love you, but we want to ask you a question." I'm like, "Okay, shoot, ask me whatever." Um, the first thing out of their mouth, my mom, "Are you gay?" Me, gas, gas,
Sorry.
me, no. So and then she was like, "It's all right, baby." And my dad touched me politely on my shoulder and said, "Son, it's okay. You don't got to lie to us." I was like, all right, you got me. The gig is up. I'm bisexual." And my mom looked at me and she was like, "Thank you for being slightly honest, but what you meant to say is you're gay. I've never seen you bring any woman around here of interest." And that was basically the start of it. But like I said, my mom and dad were taking in people before I even like felt comfortable enough to admit to it. But that sent me on my way to college because even though my family, it was a family, we had five and we lost two, which is my brother and my mom. Even though we were close knit, we were we were not able to enjoy the rest of our family, like our cousins and things like that, because I was feminine. I never had to say I was gay. I was just always this way. I was always confident and comfortable in my skin. And that bothered most because just like you, my entire family, we all went to the same church. My mom was an apostle. My dad was a bishop. It was just a lot of stuff that was happening. But the things that made my parents the black sheep of the religious culture is the fact that they took time to love those who other people shunned, which was our community.
Right.
So again, I take time to honor my parents because they did show me how to love people through things that they may not understand or agree with. But the whole importance of religion in general is love. God is love, so that's how you should move. But a lot of people just erase that moment in the history of life and just put this whole stigma like, oh no, this is just unacceptable. I cannot do this. And most of the time, y'all be gay.
Look, my brother is gay, and he's not someone that you would look at and be able to tell that he's gay. But your story is hilarious because of the way I had to get it from my brother. So like I knew like for a really long time. And so every time I asked him, he'd be like, no, no, and he'd tell me about girlfriends, but there was nothing of substance in it. It was just like, yeah, this girl named so and so. Well, what do you know about her? So he came to visit me in college and I got him drunk. And then he told me everything. And I was like, I knew it. So it was interesting to hear that. And I know that probably wasn't the best way to get him to talk about it. But after that, he did seem like mentally more free. Like he was able, like there was just a complete shift in how he interacted with people. He was no longer closed off. He was able to be himself and just be happy and free, and I love to see that for him. I
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I did want to shift quite a bit because you guys mentioned a couple of terms earlier that some people may not be familiar with. I might know a some, but I'm not sure. But y'all mentioned house families and the ball. And so I will say this when it comes to the terminology, like I used to try to do all this research to know like how do I talk about people in this community, you know, without being offensive. Like what words do I use? Like I would try to like look at it all the time, but things change so much. So I just started kind of taking a step back. Like I'm just gonna ask, right? Like if I don't know what to say, I'm just gonna ask.
Yeah.
But can you guys explain a little bit about house families and the ball, and then some other terms that people need to be aware of, or you know, really how do we talk about people in the community or talk to people in the community without being offensive unintentionally, I guess. I don't know if that's the best way to ask it, but
So when I was growing up, I had the pleasure of being adopted by one of my friends. They were like, "Oh, I'm your mother now." Me at 17 didn't know no better. I'm just like, "Cool," you know. And that's when I started to get an understanding of not only the family aspect of it, but also I started to learn the ballroom scene because I used to vogue. You know, that was just like my
Nice.
thing.
you
So
used to Vogue?
I did. I vogued
That's
in high
Oh
school.
awesome.
my God, can I see? Do you still know
Oh,
how to do it?
of course I know how to do it. Some things just don't go away.
It's like riding a
Okay,
bike.
Okay.
okay.
It's all about catching a beat. But with that, you started to realize the different labels, the different categories. In the ballroom scene, you have Butch Queen, you have Butch Queen realness, you have femme realness, you have all of these different communities that come together in this ballroom, and you start to get a understanding of the classification of how certain people identify themselves. Like a Butch Queen is a man who is very masculine, but is also very feminine at the same time. I consider myself a butch queen because I'm night and day. Some days you'll get a very feminine man. Some days you'll be like, oh, who is this nigga? And I'm like, oh, it's me, bro. But you know, like that's just a part of the ballroom scene that I've come to know and understand, especially in the Black community. It's different. Like you start to pay attention to all these white communities, these Latino communities, and they use our terminology that we've been using for years, and they've adopted it and made it their own. Like, prime example, trade. I don't know if you guys know what trade means, but trade is basically, let's say, trade is basically a man that can walk down the street and you would never know that this man was gay. I could tell you that me and this man had sex, and you would think I'm lying. That's trade. Trade is like real,
Yeah.
like real men. You know, like the niggas.
Yeah. And actually that's different from what trade mean in New Orleans now. I found that out way back in when I went to school down there. Trade
Tell
is just in New
is
Orleans,
it for
trade is just any nigga. Yeah.
any nigga that they think is a top?
No, not even no, it's not even a queer thing. It's straight folks use it. They
What?
just talk, yeah, it's not a queer thing in New Orleans. It's they
Stop
talking
stealing
about
our stuff and
any
not giving
man.
us credit.
It's funny to me.
But
With the terminology that you bringing up from the ballroom community, I actually had a question in regards to how the LGBT community is portrayed in the media. So I loved Pose, and I also watched Paris is Burning like years ago. Would y'all
mhm.
say that those depictions, like Pose, Paris is Burning, would those give other people who are not in the community a good idea of what the community is about and what it's like?
I think Paris is Burning gives people a good idea of what the ballroom and house family community is like, not the queer community. As far as
Okay.
depictions in media, I mean, overall, depictions of queer people in media suck. They as far as like quantity it has increased, but quality, when you talk about like cultural impact, what we mostly see right now is like white queer folks. And then when we talk about romantic relationships, we mostly see like interracial queer relationships. It's no focus on specific communities like Black communities, other communities of color. There's no, I mean, then also we have other marginalized parts of the queer community where there's no focus on non-binary folks or trans folks and things like that. So, um,
Can
I
you give
mean,
some can you give some definitions as you're talking about like using these different terms?
oh, sure. So when I say queer, that's really just an umbrella term. Like instead of saying like LGBTQ plus all the time, I really just say queer because that really just for me,
Okay.
Right.
yeah, so that's just the whole community for me. I
Mhm.
also personally identify as queer, but if we want to be very technical, I identify as pansexual. Um, so what was the other term that I used? Oh, trans. So when I say trans, that's just a shorthand term for transgender, or so transgender woman, transgender man, or trans man, trans woman. Yeah. So yeah.
And what is pansexual? Please don't
Oh,
knock me for my ignorance. I'm
no,
just
that's
asking
fine.
for
That's
people
Yeah.
to
fine.
know.
So pansexual, someone that's just someone who is sexually attracted to all genders. So that really doesn't
Okay.
It's
matter.
based off of a connection. And so if like I can vibe with you, I can connect with you. Pretty much, I could be open to a possibility of a relationship of some sort.
So you know what? I will say what you just said, people will describe as demisexual.
See,
So yeah,
Mhm.
so for
Yep.
me, when I say pansexual, I'm literally like I'm talking about sexuality. And if we want to just be crass, I'm talking about sex. And I'm saying I'm open to having sex with any gender. But if I want to
Yeah.
be also very technical, I lean more homo romantic. So a lot of my romantic relationships are with women. So
Okay.
that's another thing.
Mhm.
So I'm open to relationships of any type of genders, but I mostly have romantic relationships with women, and I'm open to having sex with most genders. I have a sexual attraction to all genders. I'll say that.
So
Okay.
one thing I found like just doing research and just like being in the regular community every day is that some people find it hard to keep up with all those different sexualities, and then they find it hard because they want to say, you know what I mean? Like that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to keep up with.
That's why I just say queer.
Yeah, right, right. But sometimes it seems like you can't say anything right and without getting eaten alive because you said the wrong thing.
Which I don't think is fair. Um, well, I'm going to address something with Ashley that she asked earlier. She asked about these shows. I think that those shows are great representation of what the queer community used to be like. But everything grows
Mhm.
and progresses. So it's now time to have these shows that addresses where we are currently, that gives that insight. Also, Noah's Ark was definitely a show for the Black queer community because it was
That is true. I never watched Noah's Ark.
it's really good and it shows what our dating life is like, not what white people's dating life is like. No, we're showing you the ins and outs of the Black queer community. Going back to Shug's question, I just feel that it's not fair that we have so much anger when it comes down to someone just not knowing. If we're going to put out these new labels, then that's just like a business. You have to understand that everyone's not going to understand your business at first, but you have to give it time to progress so that they can start being sold on your product. Because it's for us, it's just like we start throwing out these terms and these names. Hell, I'm in the community and I still don't even understand half the terms and I'm still learning and growing, but that's me
Mhm.
being honest because when I grew up, it was three things. Either you were gay, either you were straight, or you were bisexual. That's all I knew it to be, you know?
Mhm.
So for me at 32, I'm still finding myself trying to learn. And then some days I'm just like, I don't want to because I just take time to accept and love you for you. tell me and take time to correct me if I say something wrong, but that is also your responsibility.
Well,
If
that
you
right there,
Yeah.
that right there, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that right there, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that a lot of the times, us in the straight community, we just like we try to connect or we try to like talk about certain things and don't know how to.
Mhm,
And then we're called, names later or targeted later, or, people are angry at us for certain things that we say. It's different when it's intentional. I ain't talking about the people that just be saying stuff on purpose. But
mhm,
I do like how you said that, like, correct me. Let me know that
Yeah.
what I'm saying is not right or, whatever. So I can learn from that as well.
Yeah, no, I think, there's two things. One, it's not the problem that your ignorance isn't the problem. It's how you behave in that ignorance that's the problem. And
mhm,
it's your intent. So like when you're engaging someone that it doesn't even matter just the queer community, but that's just different from you. What's your intent in engaging them? Is your intent to attack them because you don't understand them? Or is your intent to understand them? Right. And so if your intent is to understand them, even if you don't have the language and if you don't know what to say, if you're genuine in that intent, the person who you're interacting with is going to see that. The other thing that I want to say is we in the world in general, so not just when we're talking about queer interaction with queer folks, but in the world, we tend to forget that there's a lot of folks that have dealt with traumatic experiences and tend to respond within those traumatic experiences. And so
mhm,
when you talk about that you have queer folks that's cussing you out on something because you said the wrong thing that you didn't know that you said the wrong thing, 9 times out of 10 it's because they engaged a few folks that have said the wrong thing to them and now they just are shut down. Is that right?
Mm,
It's not okay. It's not okay for you because now it's hurting you, right? That's not okay. But it's real for them. That hurt is real and it's bringing up for them. So it's hard when that dynamic has happened because now you are now offended because you didn't know what you did wrong, but then they are offended because now they're remembering all the wrongs that happened to them.
mhm,
And so I
yeah.
think the way that you combat that is to it's just being more mindful, and that's a long road, but is that's how you do that when you're engaging not just queer folks but just people that are different or that have a different journey from you. Is like you have to be mindful, oh, like they have walked a different life path and maybe I can learn something from them instead of being offended when I didn't know something or they said something wrong, and then they can be more mindful that hey, they may not understand this because they never seen it before, so maybe I can see that they're being genuine and I can try to help them out, you
mhm.
know?
Mhm. Yeah. No,
Trauma
good
is
point.
real.
Because those trauma responses, that's automatic, and there's so many other things that are tied to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ash.
So I love that you said that because it brings up a quote for me that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So the
Mhm.
whole idea of looking through things through the lens of your trauma is legit. And we all do that. Because once you say something and somebody snap at you, now you might be triggered because somebody snapped at you. So now the whole
Yep.
conversation is just done. Because now either we going back and forth or we shut down. So I
Mhm,
see that happen a lot particularly between cisgender community, cisgender heterosexual community, and the LGBTQ community. But it also brings up the point of stigma, like stigma within the community and the stigmas that heterosexual people see, the stigmas that are within the LGBTQ community itself. Because, like St. Priest was saying, people in the community don't even know all the terminology and things, so they could get looked at or viewed incorrectly, and they're in the community. So what other
Yeah.
stigmas? Because like for me, I see a lot of stigma when it comes to what is masculine, what is feminine, what like when you talk about all the different terminology, there's so much stigma behind it. Especially, I think with bisexual, if you identify as bisexual people, especially for men, like there's a stigma. A black man cannot be bisexual. You're gay.
mhm.
There is no bisexual.
Okay.
So I want to get into the stigmas that you guys have come across.
You know what? As far as I'll start there because when you talk about bisexual and how that doesn't stick with folks' mind, I think that's because we also deal in binaries. And so like my pansexuality is not something that I have gotten to with my mother right now because I know for her, I'm queer, I'm in a relationship with a woman, and for her that identifies with lesbian, but that's not what I am, right? But I can't get into all that about, because for her, she can digest only so much at a time. And I think, it is a real stigma, with the bisexuality, pansexuality. I think for me, I get it from both sides, the queer community and the straight community. I think when people see me, they automatically either see straight, or when I'm with my partner, they see lesbian. And I think for me, I think I just kind of approach that with, I don't need to tell. Again, it's kind of like how when I thought about when I last came out, I don't need to tell everybody about what my identity actually is, unless they want to have a relationship with me. And then that's when I want them to get it right. I don't want them to just call me gay or lesbian. Like, no, I am this. I'm queer. I'm pansexual. I want you to get it right. But that's if they have a relationship. Everyone else, strangers, the stigma that comes along with it, I think I kind of just accept it, because it's just like they're not, I'm not going to have a meaningful relationship with them. So, yeah.
So coming over to the gay male world, I would tell you now, one of the things that started out is this no fat, no femme thing, and or
Mm.
if you're feminine, you cannot be a top. And if you guys don't know what top means, top is basically the one who does the do. The bottom is the one who receives the do. I don't want to say do in sex because it sounds like doo doo, but I don't do doo doo. But with all jokes being this, like all jokes aside, that's been the situation that a lot of people bump into. Like Black women,
Mhm.
let me go ahead and go deeper. All of this came from judgment. Judgment stemmed from the church because of what they have been taught. It's more passable if you're a masculine man versus, oh, you're this feminine guy that likes men. Shame on you. If you're more manly, then you are more passable and people are a little bit more accepting. They're easy to just ignore it, because no one knows in general, which creates this whole DL world. And you're not able to approach the fact that, hey, I'm bisexual, I like both. Because Black women, let's be honest, they're not open to that. They're not open to a world where a man could enjoy both, or even have a history. Just because I had sex with a man in the past, but I'm pursuing a relationship with a woman, doesn't mean that I'm going to cheat on you. That's just your mental insecurity, that you think that just because I'm hanging out with my boys, I'm gonna go cheat on you. If I'm in a relationship with you, I should be respectful to the relationship in general. It doesn't matter what I'm attracted to. It's just the fact that respect should go into a relationship as it develops. And if you don't feel comfortable enough to trust that relationship, then don't pursue it. But also don't shun somebody else because they're more comfortable in their life and their choices than you are with yours.
Mm-hmm.
And last thing I'm going to say is trauma triggers, therapy dismantles. So in situations like that, even when you don't understand, you need to go and visit the root of your thought process. Why do I feel like I have to think this way? Why am I allowing this trauma of something I probably have never experienced? I probably have never had a man cheat on me with another man, but just listening to it and the judgment that's attached to it, how can I break down that trauma and develop myself into a better person for my future? Because the world is forever changing and sex is very fluid, and you should be able to do it however you want and with whoever you want. You just got to find your community that accepts it, and it's typically white people that be open to it.
I'm glad you said that, because I was just about to say real quick that it's important to acknowledge that a lot of the stigmas within the queer community, and particularly within the Black queer community, stem from white supremacist thoughts and ideals. And that's with a lot of other stigmas we can name, but talking about the queer community, that's where it comes from. I mean, Sam Priest, you were talking about top and stuff like that, and masculinity and what that means. A lot of that comes from, white people defining what it means to be a man, and that looks like a straight white man.
Which is dumb because for me, as feminine as I am, I'll lift, I'll build, I'll create. I went to school, I provide, I take care, I've taught, I've raised men. Hear me when I say this. I've raised adult men because of my relationships. I'm just like, how do y'all not know how to treat people? How do y'all not know how to love? How do you not know how? Like, these are things that me, a feminine male, has done for other people who are very masculine, but I'm the provider. I'm doing everything that our community says that masculine men should do, or just men in general should do for their partner. I'm doing it, and they're not, but yet they would get more respect than I would.
So one thing I did develop in my program was a way for, and this is not the whole community, but for parents and children to kind of understand each other and to give grace. So the program is really based on grace. It's kind of like, I may not understand you, but I'm committed to learning. And you may not understand me, but I'm committed to learning why you feel the way you feel. So everybody might not be as open to the queer community, even in families. So how do we get to that space to where we are open, not necessarily having to like what I do, but accepting. And acceptance is different than tolerance. I don't want you to tolerate me. I want you to accept who I am. And just, if I am who I am, then let me be me.
So I just want to say that what y'all all just described as far as love and acceptance not being tolerance, what you really are describing is affirmation, because it's one thing to be accepting, it's another thing to be affirming. And when you put action to your acceptance, you are now affirming, which is very different. A lot of people don't understand what it means to be LGBTQ affirming. That's what makes you an ally. That's what makes it different from just, I'm good with you. I'm cool with you being who you are. I'm good. I accept it. It goes affirmation, that affirming part of it, and inclusivity goes beyond that. So that's what y'all are describing, wanting to understand, wanting to learn more, wanting to be open. That's when you are adding action to it, and now you're affirming. That's what you want to strive for.
I love that. Love it.
Go off.
Yes,
Listen, I had to. I ain't been able to say shit. I had to say something.
And what a bang.
So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for bringing everything that they had to the Clinical Cookout, affirming, showing up for us, showing up for everybody. We love the fact that you were here and giving us you guys' perspective, and we appreciate that. So without further ado, thank you so much for celebrating Pride Month with our guest, Uncle Sam Priest. We hope to talk to y'all again and in the near future. Peace.
Yes. Oh, let me plug myself though. My name is on Instagram is SANPRIEST. I also just released my first single. It's called She's Bad. It's all live music, and I promise you guys, it is the bop of the summer. It's upbeat, but it's really, I made it for women because even though I am a gay male, I have a lot of appreciation and love for women because a lot of women have helped develop me into the person I am. So I created a song. It's called She's Bad, and I promise you it's funky. And it's only the first single for many because now I'm out there, I'm doing it. And last thing, I have a podcast. It's called The Adventures of Sam Priest. It is a show for everyday people to discuss everyday things. I want my guests to come on and be celebrated. Everyone has so many things that they're doing in life and they're not being celebrated for. So if I can provide a platform for everyday people to just be seen and be heard and discuss things that are important to them, that's what I want to do. And I want to do it with fun. So I had to plug myself.
Well, TCC gonna be taking an adventure with Sam Priest.
Yes, we are. But now since you plugged yourself, you owe Auntie Shug a little diddly do.
Diddly do. I was eating lemons and everything.
That might be the issue. Did you drink water?
Do better. Affirm me, okay?
No.
I identify as a good singer.
No.
Sam Priest, can you give us a quick snippet of She's Bad though?
Yes. She better than a mother. Ooh. She bad.
Okay.
I love it.
Not the voice on the Clinical Cookout. The voice.
If y'all
you can sing. Oh, okay.
Right. We thought he was playing. No, he can sing for real.
Yeah, you made that song for me.
That's why he gave y'all a snippet, because it ain't free.
It ain't
Okay.
right.
That's right, Sam Priest.
Yeah. No, seriously, if y'all have Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere, just type in my name, Sam Priest. I'm the only one. I'm the original. I'm the official. It was God sent. It was made. And that's actually my middle name. But yes, just type that in and I promise you I'll pop up.
Yeah, Uncle Sam Priest, you heard Auntie Suge say you made the song for her. Did y'all heard he made that song for me?
We heard her, but we ignored it.
We ignored it. We ignored it on purpose.
I did not hear her.
There is a line in the song that says, chocolate sexy energy always seems to leave me weak. So maybe that was your line, baby.
That was mine.
Oh, okay.
I told y'all.
Well, thank y'all so much.
We're going to do a duet next time.
Yes, but where can we find Brittany?
Oh my goodness. Listen, you can find me on social media at Hey Miss Willis, but I promise you, you're gonna regret it because I just be foolish on there. I don't be doing nothing.
Brittany, y'all don't want to follow.
Don't.
Brittany,
yeah, I mainly be on Facebook, but I'm at Hey Miss Willis on all platforms. So
is that
IG,
one S, MISS, or what?
Yeah, MISSWILLIS. Yeah.
Okay.
Be prepared if you.
I be on TikTok. I be on TikTok too. But yeah, if you follow me on Facebook, it's a lot of shenanigans. I don't take social media seriously right now. So
what y'all about to do?